everybody? This is Do All Latinos Think the Same? Part of the Sector playlist of Jubilee or I can't pronounce the name. It'll be in the title. Let's go.
What's up, good humans?
Hello.
I'm Ian.
I'm Michael.
And stick around, because we're going to talk about some cool stuff at the end of the episode. In the meanwhile, enjoy.
I remember on my third day in my first school here in the US, this kid in the locker room was like, "So what part of Mexico is Colombia in?" And I was just like...
I celebrate Cinco de Mayo. 3, 2, 1, go.
I used to work at bars and I would see like people who are not Mexican completely disrespecting such an important part of the history that I've just like, I stay away from it.
Part of why I'm so turned off by like the whole concept of how we celebrate it in the US is that, you know, it was like an excuse for people to act really out of pocket and disrespectful and kind of make us feel like they were doing something special for us at the same time. And I was like, yo, I'm not even like Mexican, and this is not what the struggle is about.
I like what you said about, you know, it's kind of disrespectful, and I agree, and that's one of the big problems that I have with like other people who are Mexican Americans saying like, well, I don't have a problem with it, and it's like, well, one, you probably don't have any ownership of it, like it doesn't mean anything to you personally, and two, they have this concept that like, well, if more people are exposed to it, then that means that they'll accept us, and it's like, nah, that's not how that works. It's a day for me to kind of think about my own experiences and how I can teach other people.
Are they really accepting us? It's not really us. That's not who we are.
Yeah,
we don't all wear sombreros and have handlebar mustaches and eat tacos every day.
People assume I'm Mexican. 3, 2, 1, go.
Usually people find out that I'm Hispanic or Mexican because of my name, but it's never because of my appearance, because I'm paler, I have blonde hair. People just assume that all Mexicans are dark and shorter and like have dark hair, but the reality is like Mexicans come in all sorts of colors, just like America.
I've never gotten like, you look Mexican, even though I feel like in every Latino blog I read, it's like, people always assume I'm Mexican as a Latino, and I'm just like, well, it's not really true to me.
I only get called Mexican because of what you said. Oh, you're Latina, so you must be Mexican, you know, and then I go explain like, you know, there's a whole continent, like there's like many countries, and you know, and a lot of Latinos are from the US, like we're the largest minority. We didn't all just come, you know, last week. We've been here, so it's just ignorance.
I super hear that because like, I remember on my third day in my first school here in the US, this kid in the locker room was like, "So what part of Mexico is Colombia in?" And I was just like, so for my third world country, they teach us the effing world, but out here, apparently in like the Silicon Valley, you guys don't get a map.
I feel comfortable speaking my native language in public. 3, 2, 1, go.
You bet.
Since I've moved to the Bay, I've had Mexican, Salvadorian, and Honduran parents and students literally act as if they don't understand me because I speak in a Black Spanish vernacular. I'm just at the point where I'm just like, I'm tired of like acting as if our language is uneducated or acting as if our language is like, comes from nothing. Our language comes from literally everything.
Even though I'm not fluent in Spanish, I'm conversational, I still speak it at work, like, and all my customers, they come to me relieved, like, when they find out that I can communicate to them in Spanish. And even though I'm not fluent, I do, however, see a little dishonor, kind of, when I go visit family.
Well, I mean, like, for me, in my experience, I kind of had the same thing where I grew up speaking Spanish, and then I went to school lost it and then I've regained it as I've gotten older. But like for me, I live in a fairly conservative area.
Same.
Like people have Confederacy tattoos. It can be really intense, you know what I mean? And for me, there is still a little bit of that fear.
I love the instant affinity you have with people, especially, I'm getting a little emotional about it. Like people who have left everything to come here and they're not even seen. And when I speak to them in Spanish, I feel that they feel seen for the first time. And even though we're not from the same country, we don't have the same experiences, I just feel like I have to, and I feel so blessed that I can speak Spanish. I just hope like we just honor our roots, and not just Spanish, but like you said, there's a lot of native languages that we should honor and we should practice.
The word Latinx is offensive to me. 3, 2, 1.
Never even heard of it.
I kind of like have a bigger problem with the word Hispanic. While I'm not in love with the word Latinx, like I really do love that it's inclusive of all genders. I'm waiting for the point where there will be another term because it just doesn't sit right.
So I call myself a Latina. I'm proud to be a Latina. Now, I have very dear friends who are non-binary, and they request that I call them Latinx. Of course, I'm going to honor that, and I am glad that there is a term that they embrace, but I don't think I should have to change mine.
I think people are gonna call themselves what they want, and they've been doing that forever. I think it's the fact that when we say Latino or Latina, we are excluding trans people in our language. Like, our language is powerful, and I think that, I know what you're saying, because I've had this conversation with like my parents and my aunts. Like, it's worth a tiny bit of discomfort to include trans people.
Spanking your child is not child.
Oh man.
3, 2, 1, go.
How hard?
I think that's the thing, we gotta talk about that.
Oh man.
Oof, my parents are not gonna like that I went right here.
I am a teacher. Like, Latinos are, at least my Latino parents that I see in my schools, are so quick to like, the kid could just say something back, like finish a sentence for the parent. The parent is like, blah, dale un manoplazo en la cara. And it's like, but why though? Because I see this other kid who's white and is out here wilding.
I spanked my kids maybe twice their whole life, a little bit. It wasn't even like that much. I remember the one time my mom spanked me and it stayed with me. I don't recommend it. I'm not here like, oh, pro spanking, but I think it should be, it's somebody's right to a certain point.
I think that some of, my family members who haven't had the privileges of education and the kind of lifestyle that I have don't have that space. Because I remember when I first got to the US, like in Colombia, like we're a very violent country. And I think a lot of what we see is just that being replicated into our families. But there was a certain point where my mom was gonna smack me like that. Like I would like talk back to her and and when I was like 13, I just grabbed her hand midair one time. And I was like, we're not doing it like this anymore. And I think a lot of that was coming from my American side.
Spanking to me is a tool that is easiest. It's like if they're old enough to have a conversation about what they did wrong, then have the conversation. And if they're not old enough to understand what they did wrong, then why would you hit them?
Spanking is the hardest thing to do. I agree with you, but spanking is the hardest thing to do.
I feel connected with my culture. 3, 2, 1, go.
You guys remember in the movie Selena when they're in the van and Abraham is talking to Selena, and he's saying like, being Mexican American is hard. You have to be twice as Mexican for the Mexicans, twice as American for the Americans. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And that's more or less where I am right now. And that's why I moved completely away from national identities. Like, that's why I don't identify as Mexican, because to Mexicans who are from Mexico, I'm not Mexican enough.
That's another thing that I also have an issue with is just because I'm paler, I'm güera, I get thrown into that white supremacist kind of category that no one really likes, and that literally it destroys me mentally. Like, it's just no one has the right to tell you what you are or assume what you are, and it's really just frustrating.
I really like that you bring up that point because I think as a community we need to do a lot of work around that, in the sense that I have noticed in my own experience how me having light skin has definitely yielded me different results, or I've been able to push different boundaries of I've had different access.
Because we do have a lot of things in common. You know, as a people, we have, I know it's not just language, because if you don't speak Spanish, you're still gonna be fully embracive of the culture. So I just love finding those commonalities between different, you know, nationalities. It makes me happy.
Damn.
I've enjoyed our group hug.
Hey guys, my name is Michael.
Whew. That was pretty good. I didn't have much to add on to it because I don't know nothing about Latinos. But that was pretty interesting, though. Pretty interesting. Thank you so much for watching the video. Much appreciated. I will see you guys in the next video. And as always, you are loved.